Hi, everybody. I'm Carla Canales, and I'm really excited to welcome two good friends as we embark on a discussion about National Disability Employment Awareness Month. With me is a very close friend, Molly Joyce, who is a fabulous composer and performer, and who has given us some really, really thoughtful presentations having to do with National Disability Employment Awareness Month in the past. And she has brought to us today a wonderful artist who I'm really excited to hear from, Adeliia Faizullina. So perhaps, Molly, you could introduce us and tell us a little bit more about Adele.
Sure. Thank you so much, Carla. And I'm so excited to have Adele with us today. I believe coming from Russia. I've known about Adele for a few years now. She was actually recommended to me through the esteemed composer Gabriela Elena Frank. And once I found out about her music, I became quickly very interested, and also, of course, in her incorporation of her vision impairment in her artistry, and also in advocacy, especially with composers and notation software. And as I always love with disability, as a disabled artist myself, how bringing disability into artistry really allows you to kind of question your assumptions, and I think in a good way, and move towards hopefully more creativity in a way. So with that, I'm so excited to have Adele with us, and going to go into the first question for the interview, which is, what is your first musical memory, Adele?
So hello again. I'm so excited to talk with you and share my experience. And yes, happy to talk and to be here. So I was about 8 years old when I, for the first time, have heard symphony orchestra playing. And that was the piano concerto by Rachmaninoff. And so that is such a vivid memory that I have. And that just changed my world. I felt like I found my home, and I feel this is my nature, to listen to music. And that time it was live, and that was wonderful music. And then I found this thought in me, oh, can I do this? Can I write music too? Is that possible? Because I felt that's the miracle. And I felt such different feelings. I felt happy, I felt inspired. And yes, that's my memory.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's such an amazing first memory. I mean, I actually also have the experience that Russian music, particularly Rachmaninoff, played in my life too. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm wondering, speaking of your Russian background, how did your music change from being in Russia to then being in the United States? Did you find any changes with that?
Yes, I think my style has been changed when I moved to US to start my master's program. And that happened also after my undergrad program. And when I started here in Russia, I just was learning. They were my first steps in music composition, and I was going through pretty standard classical education when we had to write a solo piece for a solo instrument, then to work on the sonata form, on the variation form, to write a string quartet. So at that time, I was exploring and just making those first steps and looking at the examples by great composers. And one year I had to write a piece based on a folk material or using a folk instrument, and that was quray, Tatar folk instrument. So I'm Tatar, I mean, even living in Russia, but it's a minor nationality here, closer to Asian culture. Tatar is coming from Turkish group of languages. So anyways, I wrote that piece, and for the first time, I explored the idea of nature and finding nature in the instrument, and talking and exploring ideas of nature, sounds of nature. The piece called Wind and the Shepherdess. And so when I started my master's in US, I found myself surrounded by so many composers, and contemporary music played, performed, and everything was so different and so often unusual to my hearing. And I thought, oh, maybe the quray piece that I wrote could be expanded to larger ideas and different ensembles or different combinations of instruments talking about nature, mimicking sounds of nature. So I started to develop that idea just because I felt it is coming from me in a more natural way, and I found joy in that. So I developed that direction, I would say. And my teachers that I worked at that time with, they also encouraged me for these ideas. And so I thought I will find my own place developing this. And later on, having my music performed, yes, I felt more and more confident and comfortable writing this kind of music. And yeah, and that just happened when I, was growing. I was getting older, and I already went through basic composition training, and developed my own voice. So those two things just matched. I think my moving to a new country and exploring new culture and my own new stage, personal, where as a stage as a composer, I would say.
That's great. Thank you. No, that's really interesting. And maybe Molly, what do you think about this next question?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like you do this so elegantly throughout your practice, not only as a composer, but also a performer. I know you mentioned some of the other instruments you play, and I know you also sing. So I was wondering if you could tell us about the various instruments you perform on.
Yeah, sure. So I started as a pianist. This is my first instrument that I played, and I fell in love with the sound and with the abilities. And I play piano now also. I practice. I have pieces remembered and practice them every day, and I compose using piano often. Then also I play this folk instrument that I mentioned before, quray, Tatar folk instrument. It is very similar to penny whistle. So I play it and write for this instrument also. I sing. I studied voice intensively for 4 years. I have bachelor's in vocal art, and often I perform my music as a vocalist and find so much joy in that. And I play a little guitar. I do guitar lessons like for 2 years. So yeah, I play it. I even recorded a piece for guitar and voice for my for one of my classes at the program where I'm studying now. Yeah, I like just explore instruments, and also recently I got a violin. So I can't play it, of course. I never took any violin lessons. Maybe I will if I will have time. But I like to take it and have it in my hands and try the sounds. I hold the bow, I guess, just really wrong way. But I like trying things such as strings harmonics. I find so much fun in those sounds, and just experiment often. I don't know, that's my really a nature. And even a tea box could be an instrument to me. I remember once I found one, like a big tea box, and found so many sounds on it, and just I don't know, forgot about things that I had to do. I just had fun about an hour exploring sounds that it can make. That was
That's so cool. That's encouraging for everyone who doesn't have an instrument. They can take something like a tea box. That's really cool. Maybe your next piece will be for tea box. Well, I'm wondering also, what does your composing routine look like? How do you go about creating a new piece?
It is always, yeah, it is always hard to describe particular first steps, because it is mix of dreaming, meditating, then just formally studying the instrument, I don't know, thinking, even having a walk outside. I think about ideas. So, and then gradually it goes to the step when I gather those ideas, and particular now I imagine sounds with my inner hearing. That happens pretty often. I try few things just to check maybe chords or certain things on the piano. I listen to music by other composers from the past or contemporary, because that's a huge inspiration. For instance, if I'm writing for a solo violin, so I would listen to some new music, some older music. And so after that, when I have precise ideas, I go to my Braille score and write down things on the page with the idea, keeping in mind that I'm going to dictate that. That's the next step. So for this step, I notate everything really very, very precisely, going from dynamics to every pitch, every length of the note. And when I have some material ready to dictate, some amount, like 8, 12 measures of the music, so I dictate that to my assistant. My assistant, he is a sighted musician, and that person notates things that I dictate using a software, Sibelius or Finale. And now I work with two people, Alexander Donskoy and Daniel Alice. And so, yeah, I dictate my Braille score to them, and we do some sound check. They would play playback, or they wouldn't if I'm writing something more experimental and there is no way to mimic that close with artificial sounds. So yeah, basically getting my ideas, writing them down to the Braille score, and then dictating.
Mhm. Great. And along those lines, then after the composing's done, or how do you prepare for your performances?
I always practice instruments that I play just to be in a good shape. But then for a specific performance, first of all, I memorize my part because, you know, I read Braille, and Braille requires you to use your hands. And so if I play piano, definitely I need to memorize the piece that I'm going to play. If I'm singing, I also prefer to memorize my part. Just I can, during the rehearsal and during the performance, I can focus on sounds that I'm making, to have artistism there, to follow the music, to bring the image. So yeah, just to be able to focus on those things. And then if the performance requires me maybe to move on the stage, or to use different tools during the performance, I just make sure I know where things are. I know how to pick them up as quiet as I can, like just to make sure everything works well toward the performance, making it smooth. And of course, I ask my friends, my co-workers, I mean co-performers to help me, and without people's help, of course, that wouldn't be possible. And I like to be connected to my peers on the stage, you know, because I need to have this personal aspect also, just to make music together. Yeah. And
Oh, that's great. And I think that leads me to another question, which you've kind of answered somewhat, but how has having a vision impairment influenced your artistry?
yeah, I think I always, through my life as a musician, always try to find ways to, I don't know, I can start this over, but it's like, yeah, the question, the topic that I had struggled about, and yeah, it involves different things happening and happened in my life. But I think I can start with my work as a composer. So first of all, it is slower. Yes, it is slower, you know, because I have to dictate my music. And when I study music, I can't see the score. I have to ask someone to explain me how scores by other composers look like, of course, by great composers from the past. This is the way how sighted composers learn and study. They look at the scores, they study scores, and they get so much information from it. So first of all, this is the the gift I feel, that I composed, and I found the way to have my music notated and performed. Because even when I started, I wasn't sure how I would bring my ideas to the page and to the performers and to the stage. And that required me just to find the best way for me, like personally, how I would learn things, then I would bring them to the page. I would be able to work on my ideas better.
Mm-hmm.
So then the other aspect, the way how it affected my art, when I started, my approach to composing was linear thinking, just because Braille notation, Braille music score has the form of linear notation. As I know, sighted musicians see lines on the score connected. So you kind of see what they share together, and you see the interaction. So with Braille, you learn each voice separately because there is no other way. You can feel just one line with your finger. You can't have your palm and feel everything all together and say like, oh, I see this is doing this when another one doing that thing. So this is not the way. And so I read Braille with my finger and memorize it. And so when I was composing, I also had textures with more linear voices moving around. So I couldn't create more complicated textures. So they were things that I could remember precisely in my head. And perception works the way that you can memorize mostly like 4 lines. And so I couldn't go more than that. And so my music was like no more than 4 lines. And it's not bad, it's not good, it's just an approach. And so my textures were extremely clear. I don't know what word would be better, but like you wouldn't need the score to see and hear what's happening. You kind of would be able to say, yeah, I know everything what is happening right now. And so when I would study textures that are more complicated, I would hear like, wow, this sounds amazing, these textures, but I wouldn't be able to say precisely sometimes which instrument is playing that because it's blended with others so well, and that creates not the instrument timbre, but more instruments timbre playing together, like spectralism ideas. So, and for that case, I would ask someone to explain me things. So in general, I would say things are for me a little different, and they affect how I write. And now what I'm doing now, I have experience as a listener, and so I'm happy right now. I can do things like imagine textures and ideas with my inner hearing, and without memorizing and without a paper. And so I don't know if I would get this way of working and working on the ideas if I would be a sighted person. I'm not sure about that, but I feel right now so comfortable with this, and I do want to explore this more. Yeah. And
no, that's fascinating. That's so interesting for someone who, doesn't know exactly what the experience might be like. Thank you for explaining it so eloquently.
Yeah. I hope I don't go too complicated about this.
No, not at all. And I think it's, again, for most of the people that we're sharing the conversation with today, this might be the first time that they've, encountered these kinds of concepts or questions. So really, thank you for explaining them. Molly, I guess I'm jumping in here. And then you should offer the last couple questions, but how do you feel that your music enacts artist advocacy? I feel like you've, again, already touched on this so much in just the ways and the challenges and solutions that you've found to make art. But is there anything else that you want to offer and for the question?
Yes, sure. So yes, I'm so thankful. I had, great parents, great teachers, supporters who helped me. And now I think with my art, if I even find one person who would find this inspiring, and specifically a person with any disability who thinks things are not possible and see they are possible if you find the way to adapt and find accommodations, I would say. So you can do so many things. And remembering just myself when I started this, because I really wanted to do this, and just seeing so many challenges that could stop me, but often I like to work against things. So, but I think just if someone would find this and see, yes, this is possible, and even will reach out to me, I'm always happy to share my experience. And if even one person will start their journey, and that would be their solution and answer to their questions, I think I have an award already. Yeah.
Great.
And just also the other point that I make in my music, I often write about nature, and my music often is inspired by nature. So, and this is such an inspiration and something that we should prevent. And I feel if my art, my work would remind at least to one person how beautiful nature is and how rich we are, having it preserved, and yes, like preventing it, and will make at least one step toward the prevention, preserving. I feel, yeah, that's another point that makes me, yes, we
Great.
do important things as artists.
And you also, along the lines of advocacy, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are trying to work with notation software, right, to make it more accessible.
Yeah.
With vision impairment.
So yeah, sure. I started this project a year ago, and so I'm still working on it. So I was questioning myself, is there a way for visually impaired composers, musicians to notate their music by their own, like by themselves, without someone to dictate, and to have the ability to experiment and just to have their own time working on their projects. And so, growing up, I didn't know any visually impaired composer at that time to refer these questions. And so these days, I decided first to find visually impaired composers and ask how they work, what's their process, and if they have used any software to notate their music themselves. So I found about 6 composers around the world who wanted to talk to me and share their experience as well. And so all of them ask for help or have an assistant or someone who writes down their music on the using standard notation. So, and I asked what they feel would be helpful to them, and if they want to have the software that would be accessible to them. It couldn't be, so yeah, hearing their opinions and their experience, we saw that just a voice-over wouldn't be the option. So the music score is the graphic. It's like a painting often, and particular with contemporary notation, there are things that are not standard notation. So it's like graphic squares and things like that. And we thought the solution would be a software with artificial intellect that would be dictating to the artificial intellect. So I'm still working on this project, and I hope we will reach out to people who works for this softwares, and we'll find something that would work for us, and then we'll have even more freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and I can't wait to hear how it develops in a way. And kind of our last question is if you could talk about the video you shared, which I believe is titled Strain to Shine, that you perform with Steve Parker. And we'd love to learn more about that as we'll share it with everyone.
Yeah, of course. So I wrote this piece in 2017, and that was a commission, came from Blanton Museum in Austin, Texas. So they had the event dedicated to reopening of a few galleries, and they asked me to write a piece related to those galleries or any paintings from those galleries. And I started just searching what collections they have and which paintings they have, and found out that they have some amount of paintings of Saint Catherine of Alexandria. I asked friends to describe me those paintings, and then I also read about Saint Catherine's story, and the story touched me. I felt so. I almost know her and feel her. Like, I don't know. They were not just words about her written on the page. The story just made me, I don't know, cry and to be emotional, and also inspired by this wonderful, strong person who didn't betray her ideas and wanted to bring light. And so in the piece, I explore the idea of struggling, going through struggles, and finding your voice and bringing your voice to the listener. And musical idea also that I use in the piece, different types of muting the voice and giving it full strength through different ways. I use my hand also to close my mouth, to open my mouth. Same idea for trombone, played beautifully by Steve Parker. He also does closed sound, open sound, those things. Yeah, this just supports the idea of voice trying to be heard, to bring the idea to be heard, and barriers that close that sound, doesn't allow the voice to speak. In the climax of the piece, the voice gets its power, having loudest note with all the strength, and then life shuts it down. And then the last section of the piece, this is the voice sounding unusually because I use overtone singing. I'm not the best with this technique. I just tried it, but I wanted more the color of it. So it's not the closed sound, it's not like open, normal, regular voice sounding, as something in between or different. And so just for the idea of voice coming through ages, times, limits, barriers, that the spectrum of voice can penetrate, and to bring that light and yes, just strain to shine. So
no, that's just been really, really insightful, Adele. Do you have anything that you might want to leave those who watch the video with? Some final thought or question or remark?
Yeah, I wanted just to say thank you for this project, and I think this is important to share these stories. And I feel I might say that we should do things that we like the most. And before saying they are not possible, we have to explore all the possibilities to make it happen. And often we will find so many things are possible, and you can do almost everything what you dream to do. And yeah.
That's a great closing thought, and I think you're really living proof of that. And the fact that you keep composing and performing gives us all the inspiration to keep going. And I'm really glad that you took the time to speak with us today. And thank you also, Molly, for putting this all together. She's done an incredible job and is leading the way on these conversations. So I know everyone will really enjoy your comments, and hopefully there'll be more in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adele.
Thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Thank you.